tons of debris attributed to the tsunami in Japan. And they also determined that there was a huge amount of that was fishing waste, where the trawlers would lose their gear, and that gear would, of course, be there in the ocean, and it would accumulate also in this garbage patch. But there is still a significant amount of debris that is caused from plastic. Now, we love our water bottles, right? I mean, we look around and we see, I mean, you go down the aisle in Costco or Sam's and you see these cases and cases of water bottles. You see dispensers of water bottles. You see people with water bottles in their backpack, in their pocket. I know yesterday we had a birthday party for my 6-year-old granddaughter, and we had a case of water bottles that we brought to the party. Used about half of them. Now I have half of the water bottles in the back of my car. Turns out that those water bottles in the U.S., we have 50 billion water bottles produced in the U.S. alone. And much of the debris in the ocean is water bottles. Water bottles. Turns out that we each need, on the average, about 8-ounce glasses of water a day. And if you look at the annual cost of that water, if you take it from the tap, or if you will, from your water filter, it costs about 50 cents for a year's worth of drinking water, if you take it from the tap. If, on the other hand, you go down to Costco or to Sam's and you buy these cases of water bottles and you bring them home, and that's what you use for your drinking water because it either tastes good or you know it's filtered or it says it's filtered, and you want the convenience of just grabbing a water bottle and taking it with you, that cost is about $1,400 per year. So, if you will, 2,800 times the cost of having our water bottle or our glass filled versus using our or consuming our water via water bottle. Well, those water bottles, 50 billion of them. Can you imagine 50 billion? How much space that takes? I did a penny talk several years ago where I talked about the size of the universe equating a mile to a penny. And it turns out that this area here and back through there filled up all the way to the ceiling, that's 1 billion pennies. Okay, so gives you a sense of what a billion is. So 50 billion water bottles in the U.S. alone. Interesting. Then we have the thing of the melting ice sheets, right? We hear about the ice sheet in Greenland disappearing quickly. In fact, eroding from the bottom. We hear about the West Antarctic ice sheet that is sliding into the sea. And we hear about the forecast of sea level rise and the effect that that's going to have on the coastlines. There's something like 30% of the world's population is going to be affected by sea level rise. In worst case, at the end of the 21st century, 30% of the population. What's that going to do? That's going to force, they're not going to develop water-breathing apparatus in their bodies. They're going to move inland, right? And so we're going to have this huge displacement of people arising as a result of sea level rise. And that sea level rise is not something that we're going to be able to stop. We can decrease it. Perhaps we can bring it to zero, but that's going to take a whole lot of I won't say sacrifice, I'll say a whole lot of awareness on the part of people of the planet. And this day today, April 22, April 22 was set aside in 1970 as being the day to celebrate the environment. Anybody know why April 22 was chosen as the date to celebrate the environment? Didn't happen because of some celestial event. It wasn't because of someone's awareness on that particular day. It turns out that that was the day in that year when it was estimated that there would be a greater number of college students that would be available to march. It was between spring break and finals in the quarter system in most of the country. So they chose April 22. That's it. So now we have April 22 as our day of celebration of Earth Day. Well, in any case, Earth Day is intended to bring our awareness, once a year. Let's bring our awareness just once a year. It's one day out of 365. Let's bring our awareness to the importance of paying attention to taking care of this planet that we are on. Whew. Seems like there's some misplaced values there. How about if we had 364 days of awareness of our environment, and we'll take a one-day break each year of not paying attention to it? But we have then this literally a slow-moving train wreck, a crisis that is in the making. And we talk about it enough that people say, oh yeah, boy, I wouldn't want to be alive at the end of this century, or guys, it's too bad that we're not doing more about it, and we just go on our way doing the same thing that we've always done, buying our water bottles the same way we buy our water bottles, using our cars the same way we've always been using our cars, and da-da-da-da-da. It's difficult to change the habits that we have in our experience of prosperity. In fact, prosperity, that's an interesting aspect of our treatment of our planet. The water bottles, the TVs, the sofas, all of the stuff that we buy, and even the stuff that we recycle. I mean, there's still energy involved in recycling, right? And it's not as if we take a water bottle and we put it in the recycling bin, and lo and behold, it comes out the other end filled with water with no intervening effort to change that water bottle. Even the recycling requires substantial energy. Not as much as producing a new one in most cases. But our attempts to clean up our environment are falling short. We need to pay attention. There is a commonly understood effect of our prosperity here in the U.S., for that matter, prosperity around the world. Our prosperity begets consumerism. And consumerism is the reason why we are having this slow-moving train wreck underway. If we look at Scripture, how many of you have heard of the prosperity gospel? The prosperity gospel is a current theme among the evangelical Christians, that God intends everyone to drive a Bentley. I mean, that's the essence of it. God intends everybody to be wealthy. In fact, the measure of wealth is a demonstration of the blessing that God has heaped upon you. Now, I will not mention any names here, but there are some politicians that, being extremely wealthy, have gained the endorsement of evangelical Christians because they are wealthy. That stems from this passage in Matthew and others, but ask and it will be given you. Search and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and everyone who searches finds, and for everyone who knocks the door will be opened. Is there anyone among you, if your child asks for bread, will give you a stone? Or if the child asks for a fish, will give a snake? If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good things to those who ask him? So this quote, this passage, is one that indeed we in unity use. And I've used this in the past. But taken to the extreme, taken to the edge of its meaning, it is telling some among us that those who are rich must be blessed by God. And it seems to me that that is a huge distortion of the teachings that are offered here. The teachings that are offered here are, well, Charles Fillmore offers this. He says that when we have not been successful in making, we have not been more successful in making this doctrine of Jesus, of giving and receiving, a practical standard for for everyday guidance. Boy, Trinity, could you come up here and read this slide? We have not been more successful in making this doctrine of Jesus, of giving and receiving, a practical standard for everyday guidance, because we have not understood the law on which it is based. Jesus would not have put forth a doctrine that was not true and not based on unchanging law. And we can be sure that this doctrine is powerful enough to support all the affairs of civilization. That is to say, this passage from Matthew 7:7 is one that, as a society, I mean, we don't have to be Christian, right? We can look at the wisdom of this. And the wisdom of this is really based in this concept that unity offers. We have, let's see if I made, there it is. Okay. So unity's teachings are based upon these 5 principles. The first principle is that there is one God. The second principle is that the Son of God, or the expression of God, is in each and every one of us. And the third principle is what I'm going to point out here and dwell upon, is that the thoughts that we hold in mind manifest in our experience. Okay, so this idea that we have the power to manifest in our experience those things upon which we focus our thoughts. That is a very powerful principle, and it's a principle that we can in fact put into effect. But if we put it into effect with the intention of ensuring that we drive a Bentley, or we have a Bentley driven for us, or we have this 9,000 square foot house that we live in, my wife and I, or if we have, all kinds of evidence of our material wealth that we play with in whatever way, what that is doing is that is a distortion of this principle that the thoughts we hold in mind manifest in our experience. I mean, it's such a distortion that it is a sacrilege. It is such a distortion that it is profane. It is a turning of this principle of thoughts held in mind on its head. I mean, literally, as it relates to our caring for this planet that we are on. If we look at this principle of the thoughts held in mind manifest in our experience, well, that is the basis of the prosperity teachings that New Thought offers. And you notice that I don't spend a whole lot of time teaching prosperity in that sense of material manifestation. I don't do that. I feel that there is something profane about striving for more material wealth. It's not to say that wealth is sinful. It is to say that our striving for wealth without concern for its effect on the environment is sinful. Okay? That is, it is erroneous in our understanding of what Jesus is talking about. But these thoughts that held in mind manifest in our experience, that is still a very powerful principle. And if we use the intention, or if we use that principle to intend for greater peace, or to intend for greater love, or to intend for greater connectedness, that is not it's not subtracting from the planet, but rather adding to the relationships that gird the planet. If we use that principle for the purpose of expanding our relationships and expanding our connectedness, then that will lead to our care for this planet. If we are concerned about the effects, for instance, I go down to Costco and I'm amazed at these shirts, these dress shirts for $17. It turns out that those dress shirts priced at $17, nice material, well made. I used to buy dress shirts at the regiment up on the hill in Boulder back in the days when I was with IBM, and then I'd be paying $30 for a shirt. I mean, now those shirts would be $120, $130, $140 for a shirt. Well, I go down to Costco and I buy a dress shirt for $17, and I don't pay attention to where it's made. I don't want to know. For instance, in Bangladesh, the clothing sector of the urban areas in Bangladesh are filled with toxic water from the dyes and the processing chemicals that are involved in our shirt manufacturing. Now, you could say, well, Costco, why do you do that? Sam's Club, why do you do that? Or, for that matter, Walmart or anywhere else that sells cheap shirts. Well, I would suggest that those shirts are probably priced, those shirts are probably the same ones that are priced at $140. They're just relabeled. I don't know that for sure, but nonetheless, there are vast areas of pollution in Bangladesh. I mean, workers there, several years ago, I think it was about 5 years ago, there was a building that collapsed where over 1,000 workers in this fabric manufacturing plant were killed because, well, the economies of the area were such that they couldn't do the work, they couldn't produce the goods that they produced for the price they produced if they were concerned about such things as architectural integrity. Right? So we have choices that we make in the consuming that we do that has an adverse effect on the lives of people in far-off regions. But we don't see that, right? Because Bangladesh, where's Bangladesh? Why do I care about Bangladesh? That's on the other side of the planet. You know, those people, they choose to work in those factories, right? They choose to work in those factories because that's the highest paying job that they have. But we are the ones that are putting them into a position through our consumerism. We're the ones putting them into a position of having to work in substandard environment. I don't know the answer for this. I'm just saying that we have a responsibility in our consumerism to realize that we have an impact on this planet. And I suggest that when we do buy something, we pay attention. We think about the overall impact on the planet. We think about the effects of our spending $17 for a shirt. Yeah, I'm probably going to go back down to Costco and I'm going to look through the shirts at Costco, and if I need a shirt, I may in fact buy a shirt there. Until I remember, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing? What am I doing to the planet? What am I doing when I buy this case of water? What am I doing when I decide that I'm going to go for a drive? And I do choose to go for a drive. But the effect of my going for a drive is that I am spewing stuff into the air. Even if I have an electric car, right? The energy that is used to charge the batteries in that electric car, and the batteries themselves, I mean the lithium-ion batteries themselves, there is such an environmental impact. Well, what's the answer? Do we crawl back into our cave and not leave for fear that our footprint on the ground is going to somehow affect the environment? I don't know the answer here. There are great minds all across this planet that are struggling with this idea. But we need to realize that we have an effect on the planet. How can we minimize that effect? How can we reduce the impact that our trip to the grocery store, or our purchase of a big screen TV, or our decision to throw away last year's styles of clothes and get new clothes? These are all impactful decisions. We just need to be aware and allow ourselves to be influenced by our care for this planet. I wish I had the solution. I wish I could say, okay, here's what you need to do. But each person's situation is different. I offer you the request that you pay attention to your consuming and try to reduce your impact, as I need to pay attention to my impact on this marvelous planet that we have. We'll have our meditation. As we come into our meditation, let us come in with, I cast all my cares. In the stillness of this moment, let us invite into our awareness the insight, the wisdom that is offered to us by the indwelling Christ. We are the children of the Most High. We are the harbors of this essence of God pressing through us, expressing from us. We invite this awareness. We invite this expansion of consciousness. Father, Mother, God, we celebrate your awareness, your presence in our awareness. We allow ourselves to be guided by you. We allow ourselves to decide with your input. We allow the blessings of your wisdom to be a part of our process each and every day, to be a part of our lives. Not for the big things only, but for the little things. Celebrating your awareness and being grateful for all of our blessings. Being grateful for our power to discern. Being grateful for the awareness to be grateful. We allow ourselves to be guided to greater understanding of our relationship with our environment. We allow our understanding of our relationship with each other to be guided, lifted, transformed by our awareness of the Christ light that is in each and every one of us. We allow our journey on this planet, footfall by footfall, to be guided by the Christ in each and every one of us. To be guided by the Christ that is present in me, in each of us now. Where would you have me go? What would you have me do? With whom would you have me associate? And how may I help those with whom I associate? What is mine to do here now? What is the most important thing to make this planet more livable, to make this planet more hospitable, to allow each and every one of us occupying this planet to be lifted and transformed in our life experience, in our spiritual awareness? How may I help? Asking these questions, I'm confident that I will receive the answers. I feel blessed. And for that, I give thanks. And as we come back to this time and space, let us come back with the words of the Lord's Prayer.